Right, Impact. Sounds like a superhero team, but it's actually EU's way of tackling organized crime. New. Yeah, the name itself is kinda clunky, but the mission is serious, fighting international cybercrime. And apparently they even took down Emotet. That was a big one. Exactly. Impact isn't just talk, it's about coordinated action. Think joint task forces, shared intel. The Emotet takedown in 2021 was a prime example of that platform working. So, it's like the Avengers of cybersecurity, but for governments. Makes sense given how cross-border these threats are. But it also makes you wonder why we still see so many breaches despite platforms like this. Because stopping the bad guys is one thing, but securing the data itself is another beast entirely. Platforms like Impact help with the latter part, disrupting the infrastructure, not just patching holes. True, it's a multi-layered problem, but let's be real, even with all this fancy cooperation, breaches still happen left and right. Speaking of which, remember the Malaysia Airlines leak?
Oh yeah, the Malaysia Airlines leak. Classic case of how long it can take for something to be discovered. 9 years. And they only announced it in 2021. Talk about a slow burn. Seriously, 9 years. That's longer than some companies have been around, and it came from a third-party provider. Classic outsourcing gone wrong. New third-party risk is always a headache. You think you're secure, but someone else's security lapse brings you down. And the scale of breaches is just staggering now. Look at SD Lauder, Facebook, Oracle, billions of records. It's almost normalizing, which is terrifying. Normalizing is the wrong word, it's just incredibly common. The attack vectors are constantly evolving, and defenders are playing catch-up. Plus, the sheer volume of data makes it harder to detect anomalies sometimes. It's a perfect storm.
So, back to MA. The Enrich program, their frequent flyer thing. The breach spanned from 2010 to 2019. Imagine your data sitting there, exposed for almost a decade without anyone knowing. It's wild, 9 years. By the time they found out and told people, who knows what happened in between. Did anyone even notice anything fishy during those years? Probably not. People were just flying and earning points. Exactly, and the source being a third-party provider is a huge red flag. It means MA wasn't directly responsible for the breach, but they were still liable for the data they entrusted. Liability is one thing, but the customer experience is another. Imagine being a loyal Platinum member finding out your personal info has been floating around for 9 years. That's gotta sting.
Okay, so what exactly got leaked? Names, DOB, contact info, gender, status. Pretty standard stuff for a loyalty program. No flight details, no credit card numbers, no passwords. Right, they dodged the worst bullets. Credit card info and passwords would have been catastrophic, but still, names, DOB, contact info, that's enough for identity theft attempts, scams, targeted advertising, you name it.
And how did they handle the announcement? Email notification, standard procedure. They laid out the facts, when it happened, who was responsible, what wasn't leaked. The email itself is interesting. They explicitly state their own systems were fine, pointing the finger squarely at the third party. And they mention no passwords were exposed, which is good, but also feels like a bit of a non-event. It's a classic corporate response. Acknowledge the issue, minimize the perceived damage, reassure customers, and direct them to change passwords. The warning about not calling members is also smart, prevents scammers from posing as the company. Smart, maybe, but also a bit passive-aggressive. Like, we're telling you, but don't expect us to call you personally. It's efficient, but lacks warmth. And focusing on the third-party excuse doesn't fully address the customer's concern about their data being exposed.
So, what should the poor Enrich members do? Change their password, obviously, but the bigger advice is to check if they use the same password elsewhere. Because if they did, boom, credential stuffing risk. Exactly. Credential stuffing is where attackers use the stolen username-password pairs to try and log into other sites where the user might have reused the password. It's a common tactic. New, and the phishing warning is crucial. Scammers will inevitably try to piggyback on this news. Any email or call asking for personal info or claiming urgent action related to the breach. Hang up, delete. Nan, definitely. Phishing is the low-hanging fruit for attackers after a breach. They know people are already stressed and more likely to click. Vigilance is key.
So, what can companies actually do to prevent this? Encryption is fundamental. If the data is encrypted, even if it gets stolen, it's just gibberish to the attacker. Protecting data at rest and in transit is non-negotiable. New encryption is great, but it's not a silver bullet. You also need robust data management. Know who has access to what, monitor data flows, and have systems that can detect unusual activity or unauthorized data transfers. Think data loss prevention tools. Nan, absolutely. And insider threats are a big part of data management. Strict access controls, least privilege principles, monitoring privileged accounts, and critically, managing third-party risks. Due diligence on vendors, regular security assessments, clear contracts outlining responsibilities. New, right. It's about building layers of defense. Technology is important, but so is policy, process, and human vigilance. And holding third parties accountable is absolutely essential. Looking back at the NA case, the critiques are pretty clear. First, the 9-year delay. That screams weak monitoring and incident detection. How did they miss that for so long? It's possible the attackers were very careful, leaving no trace, or maybe the monitoring tools weren't sophisticated enough. Either way, 9 years is unacceptable. Second, the third-party accountability. Did MA vet their provider properly? Did they have security requirements? Seems like a major oversight. New, and third, the communication. Downplaying the breach, focusing on the third-party blame, not providing enough transparency. It doesn't inspire confidence. Customers want honesty, even if it's bad news. Nan agreed. Transparency is key. Acknowledge the mistake, explain what happened, and commit to fixing it. Trying to spin it or deflect blame usually backfires. It shows a lack of ownership and responsibility.
It really puts things into perspective. Data is the new oil, right?
Everyone's talking about it, leveraging it. But if it keeps leaking and getting stolen, what's the point?
Exactly, it's like drilling for oil and then having the pipelines burst everywhere. The value proposition collapses. And it's not just big corporations, it's systemic. We see it everywhere: insecure websites, sloppy practices, weak passwords. Nan, it's a culture issue as much as a technical one. We need to build security into the DNA of digital development, not just bolt it on as an afterthought. New, couldn't agree more. No security, no digital future. It's a simple equation. If we can't protect our data, we can't truly thrive in the digital age. We need to get serious about it, everywhere.
So, wrapping it up, data breaches are a massive, ongoing challenge. It's not going away anytime soon. No, definitely. It requires everyone pulling in the same direction, individuals being smarter, companies doing better, and regulators setting the bar higher. Nan, proactive measures, continuous vigilance. It's the name of the game. Thanks for the chat, EV. Always good to bounce ideas off you. No, same here, Alex. Keep those defenses strong.